Picture this, you pour $2 million into a pristine lakefront loggia, your dream escape from the noise of the world. One serene morning, the HOA rolls up with an excavator and, in the name of landscape harmony, reduces it to rubble. And there's Victoria, self-anointed queen of the neighborhood, clapping like it's the 4th of July, while I stand there quietly recording every single detail for the massive fine they're about to face. Victoria's reign had been unchallenged until the night she spent a fortune hiring a crew of special visitors to appear at my doorstep under cover of darkness. What she didn't count on was that I'd already anticipated her move. The first sign something bigger was at play came from my computer. A demolition authorization appeared on my screen, an emergency override, complete with a flashing error log. Unauthorized access to the city's planning database. The HOA had hacked the municipal system to greenlight destroying my home. What they didn't know, I was the one who designed that system, and every keystroke they made was captured in my logs. My name's Alex Rivera. 6 months earlier, I thought I'd found peace. I was a senior cybersecurity engineer in Seattle, specializing in penetration testing and digital forensics, with high-level clearance. After losing my mother to CEO poisoning, I needed air, quiet, and a place to remember here away from the city. The lodge wasn't just a property investment. It was my sanctuary. The 2.5-acre waterfront parcel in Aurora Springs came with a private dock and a converted barn I turned into a high-tech workspace. Solar panels powered everything, Starlink kept me connected, and a custom security network with environmental sensors ran around the clock. The heart of the property was my mother's memorial garden, complete with a smart irrigation system that watered her roses exactly when they needed it. Everything was practical, intentional, and a tribute to her belief that technology should serve people, not the other way around. Then came Victoria, digital dictator Wallace, 48 years old, former marketing exec, and the HOA president who treated community management like her personal reality TV show. She crowned herself guardian of community branding and property value optimization, live streaming every home meeting with hashtags like #CommunityExcellence and #ValueProtector. From the moment we met, she made it clear that my visible tech equipment clashed with her vision of perfection. The complaints trickled in. First, the security cameras were spying, solar panels ruined the historical aesthetic, LED lighting was harsh, and the satellite dish was unacceptable. She wanted all technology either hidden or disguised to fit her curated Instagram feed. Her obsession turned public when she launched a Facebook group called Aurora Springs Aesthetic Standards, posting daily surveillance-like shots of my property with captions that made it sound like I was committing crimes against humanity. The irony? She was deeply invested in social media fame, yet terrified of actual digital infrastructure. When the online attacks escalated, I shifted into professional mode. My network monitoring detected coordinated bot activity of fake reviews, synchronized negative posts across forums, and attacks on local business listings. This wasn't organic outrage, the evidence pointed to professional manipulation. Digging into our HOA CCR documents, I found a clause Victoria probably never noticed: board members committing willful violations could be liable for triple damages. If anyone was foolish enough to destroy my lodge, the numbers would be catastrophic for them. The deeper I dug, the darker it got. The digital trail led to Victoria's own IP address and a hired digital marketing consultant running bot farms in multiple states, cryptocurrency payments, shell companies, and a sophisticated network designed to fake community consensus all pointed to a larger scheme. 3 neighboring HOAs showed identical patterns of forced sales of targeted properties, always purchased by the same investment groups. This wasn't about keeping lawns pretty. It was about orchestrated harassment to grab high-value real estate. I'd thought Victoria was just a control freak with a smartphone. Instead, I'd uncovered a professional-scale operation, and that suspicious $85,000 community improvement budget the HOA approved recently. It was only the surface of something far more dangerous. That's when I decided to prepare you not just with honeypots and tracking tools, but with a full home defense system, motion sensors, automated lighting, redundant recording systems. My time in national security taught me one thing: when an enemy escalates, They go all in. And I intended to be ready. I hadn't expected Victoria to evolve from a clipboard-wielding HOA president into a full-blown digital warfare operator, or that my most unexpected ally would be a 17-year-old TikTok creator. Her campaign exploded far beyond anything I'd encountered in corporate cybersecurity. Negative reviews flooded Google, Yelp, and local directories, painting me as everything from a paranoid recluse to a neighborhood spy. Social media swarmed with fake accounts, each one crafted to pass as a concerned resident. Behind the scenes, she pressured real neighbors into joining her HOA Facebook group, using charm when possible and intimidation when necessary. She even tried to undermine my career by contacting my employer with false accusations of hacking and security breaches. I responded with countermeasures that would have impressed my old NSA colleagues. Honeypot networks tracked their intrusion attempts as they happened. Digital forensics mapped Victoria's online presence and her web of connections. AI-driven pattern analysis exposed the behavior of her bot army across multiple platforms. I slipped in my own fabricated personas to infiltrate her group, quietly gathering intelligence and identifying her collaborators. Every move they made was captured, logged, and preserved as evidence. That's when Dylan Thompson entered the picture, a teenager from down the street with a gift for turning chaos into viral content. A natural digital native, Dylan understood online culture and the mechanics of going viral in a way that perfectly complemented my technical skill set. But he had his own reasons to fight back. Victoria had targeted his family, claiming their social media activity violated HOA rules. She nitpicked everything from the placement of their ring light to the number of delivery trucks stopping by. Dylan wanted more than just payback, he wanted to protect his family and his neighborhood. A major breakthrough came when I lawfully obtained the HOA's financial records through public access requests. The infamous $85,000 community improvement expense was broken into 3 suspicious locations: $35,000 for reputation management, $25,000 for community engagement platforms, and another $25,000 for security consulting. These weren't neighborhood upgrades as if they were professional-grade manipulation tools. Tracing the payments led to a tangle of shell companies under the same ownership, forming a corporate camouflage network. What chilled me most was the scale. Identical bot farm campaigns were active in other HOAs, all targeting high-value properties, waterfront homes, large parcels, or tech-upgraded residences. The goal was the same in every case: pressure owners into selling below market value so the properties could be scooped up by paper-only investment firms. In Aurora Springs alone, a dozen families had already been pushed out after enduring relentless harassment. Their homes were bought immediately by the same shadowy entities. Victoria's mask began to slip when she hired a crisis management firm and started sending cease and desist letters accusing others of harassment and cybersecurity violations. Publicly, she framed herself as a leader defending the community from digital threats. Privately, she ramped up the very campaigns she claimed to be fighting. That's when Dylan struck gold. His TikTok series HOA Karen vs. Tech Bra broke down Victoria's manipulation in a way that younger audiences devoured and shared. Her own live-streamed HOA antics turned into meme material overnight, fueling the spread. Local hashtags like #HOAgate and #DigitalDictator began trending, applying pressure Victoria hadn't anticipated. The content had side effects she never expected. It sparked genuine digital rights conversations. Dylan's followers started asking for guidance, spotting bot accounts, securing home networks, understanding privacy laws, documenting cybercrimes. What began as a revenge project turned into a neighborhood-wide crash course in online security. But Victoria wasn't done. She brought in more experts to reinforce her operation: a crisis managers, legal muscle, and a steady stream of emergency home meetings framed around removing cybersecurity threats. On camera, she played the concerned leader. Off camera, her bot network kept grinding. Then I breached her hired firm's server credentials and found proof that her scheme was just a small part of something bigger. The digital fingerprints connected her HOA's efforts to a much wider real estate acquisition operation, one with enough scope to attract federal interest. And when the heavy machinery finally arrived to tear my lodge apart, Victoria stood at the front like a conductor at her own twisted symphony, applauding the destruction. She didn't realize that every law she broke, Every word she spoke, and every frame of that day had already been preserved ready to be used against her. Every figure I documented would eventually triple into the crushing fine the HOA owed. The irony was almost poetical. While Victoria was celebrating what she believed to be her crowning victory, I was quietly laying the groundwork for her legal collapse. The demolition had been staged like a neighborhood festival. Workers arrived before dawn, stretching tarps to hide the contractor's logo and posting signs that read "Emergency Structural Hazard Removal." Victoria took her place at the excavator's front, microphone in hand, ready to read her so-called emergency order. But a closer look at the document revealed a skewed watermark, a giveaway that the official seal was a forgery. Out on the lake, a tourist paddling past caught the entire event on video without realizing they were capturing key federal evidence. The violations stacked up instantly. No 2/3 resident approval as required by law. No 48-hour notice before major work. No certified safety oversight. Noise ordinance breached. Each infraction was recorded and sent via certified mail to preserve my claims. The penalty calculations growing by the minute. The best part? These were the very rules Victoria herself had championed the previous year now turned against her. What she didn't realize was that she wasn't up against a hobbyist with a few security gadgets. I'd spent 15 years in national defense cybersecurity for the NSA, specializing in countering nation-state threats. I'd left federal work over ethical concerns with mass surveillance, but I hadn't forgotten how to fight. As the excavator tore through my mother's memorial garden, I felt her presence, calm, steady, reminding me that strength is sometimes the only way to protect what's right. Victoria thought she was steamrolling a quiet retiree. She'd actually declared war on someone who understood her entire playbook. That night, the home meeting was standing room only. You could see the idea laptops and smartphones on one side, clipboards and paper binders on the other. The air was heavy with long-suppressed resentment. Victoria had come prepared. She stood beside a polished presentation setup, a legal advisor ready at her side, confident this would be her final blow. Her slideshow titled "Cybersecurity Threats in Our Community" was pure fear-mongering. Misleading stats painted smart homes as dangers to safety, while she called for a ban on excessive technology. Her advisor nodded solemnly at each exaggeration, giving false credibility to what was essentially a staged witch hunt. When it was my turn, I kept it simple. I explained how smart tech actually improves home safety. I cited homeowner rights under state law. I even invited everyone to visit my property for a transparent, open house demonstration of every system. Then I dropped the real bombshell. I connected to the projector and displayed an active hacking attempt originating from inside the building. The source? Victoria's own tablet, caught red-handed trying to access other residents' home networks while she lectured about digital safety. The room erupted in murmurs. Her supporters shifted uncomfortably. Next, I pulled up the database from Community Digital Enhancement Services, the firm she'd been funneling HOA funds into. What flashed on the screen was nothing short of a digital playbook for authoritarian control, of social media manipulation, fake review generation, neighbor surveillance, manufactured community consensus, and property devaluation campaigns. Her record showed 3 years of payments totaling $340,000, targeting 23 households in Aurora Springs alone, many of them owners of waterfront, large lot, or tech-upgraded homes. 12 families had already been driven out, their properties quietly scooped up by shell companies tied to a single investment network. Development plans revealed the endgame: convert our quiet lakeside community into a dense luxury resort. The room's mood shifted from shock to fury as people saw surveillance logs documenting their own daily routines, habits, schedules, vulnerabilities alongside notes clearly meant for blackmail leverage. Everyone realized the artificial suppression of property values had robbed them of thousands in equity. Her remaining allies abandoned her on the spot. I then displayed the damages calculation: demolition costs of $200,000, structural damage at $300,000, lost peak season income at $150,008 totaling $600,000. Multiply that by 3 under state statutes for willful misconduct, and the HOA faced $1.95 million in liability. I posted the figure on the county's public complaint portal and sent the link to every homeowner, and that notorious $85,000 community improvement expense, it paid for professional-grade surveillance gear, hidden cameras aimed at targeted residents, data harvesting on their comings and goings, and dossiers meant to intimidate. Dylan's livestream captured every moment. Viewership skyrocketed. Hashtags like #HOGate and #KarenExposed caught fire regionally, and neighbors began filming their own clips of the chaos. Victoria's composure cracked. In a desperate pivot, she tried to blame foreign hackers for everything, while her legal advisor didn't even wait for the meeting to end. He quietly gathered his papers and walked out. Meanwhile, Victoria's automated social media queue kept posting as if nothing was happening, each update making her situation worse. The woman who had built her influence on digital manipulation was now being publicly dismantled by the very tools she'd mastered. She stormed from the room, phone in hand, furiously messaging someone whose username I recognized from the hacked database. I'd seen the phrase emergency protocol alpha before, an internal contingency plan for when operations were exposed. Metadata showed it had been triggered less than half an hour after she left. The plan called for a confrontation to happen right outside my home that night. What I didn't expect was for it to take the form of a fake SWAT raid. Under cover of darkness, 6 figures in black tactical gear climbed out of unmarked SUVs at my gate. They carried high-end equipment, wore composite shields, and sported badges stamped Digital Crimes Enforcement Unit Aurora Springs Division. The setup was designed to look official, but with just enough legal wiggle room to claim it wasn't. Fortunately, I'd already prepared my defenses earlier that day. The moment my motion sensors activated, my automated perimeter went live. Hidden 4K cameras captured every angle, and my network monitoring tools analyzed their radio chatter in real time. All footage uploaded instantly to secure cloud storage, with backup dead man's switches ensuring nothing could be erased. It didn't take long to uncover the truth that these weren't law enforcement officers. They were professional actors hired through a corporate event service. My systems intercepted their communications, which read like stage directions for a play. Look intimidating, don't break any laws, exit if challenged. Payment record streamed in live via $5,000 per actor, plus $20,000 for the coordinator. 2 blocks away, Victoria sat in a parked car, giving instructions over an encrypted radio feed. My equipment cracked without effort. Her enforcement team was an odd mix of genuine surveillance tools and movie props. Those ran on civilian frequencies. Their badges were sloppy 3D printed fakes, and the government plates on their SUVs were cheap decals on rental cars. The whole thing had the production value of a low-budget crime reenactment show. I logged every detail: their radio frequencies, facial recognition matches to social media profiles, vehicle tracking hits, and most damaging of all, Victoria's own live voice giving orders. Her panicked command when things went sideways: abort, delete everything, pay them to disappear, was captured in perfect clarity. The actors broke almost immediately when the real police arrived. They handed over contracts, payment records, and even video clips of coaching sessions where Victoria personally walked them through the plan. Her intimidation stunt had just crossed into serious criminal territory: wire fraud, conspiracy, impersonating law enforcement, and violations under the RICO statute. Because her plan used electronic communications across state lines, it also triggered federal jurisdiction. The final blow was my automated evidence package, a fully indexed digital dossier sent simultaneously to the FBI's cybercrime division, the state police, and the county prosecutor. I also released a redacted version to investigative journalists. Victoria had set out to scare me into submission. Instead, she'd manufactured the kind of airtight case that could dismantle her entire network. Protective measures were extended to every neighbor who had been subjected to Victoria's surveillance network. The thoroughness of the evidence package would later be praised by federal prosecutors as among the most complete digital case files they had ever received. Her empire began unraveling almost immediately. Servers for her so-called community digital enhancement platform were taken offline. Payment processors froze her accounts, and federal domain seizures stripped control of her infrastructure. International partners in law enforcement moved to isolate overseas servers that had supported her activities. Victoria's escape attempt was clumsy but frantic, selling off assets, converting cash into cryptocurrency, booking flights to countries without extradition treaties, and ordering an industrial shredder to destroy records. She cut off communications, switching to burner phones and encrypted messengers, but the damage was already done. In the wake of her downfall, the neighborhood came together. Residents opened their homes, offered legal guidance, and provided technical support to anyone she had targeted. Dylan organized cybersecurity workshops that drew people from across the region. Rosa Martinez, drawing on decades of legal expertise, gave free counsel. My professional network contributed pro bono resources to assist victims of similar schemes beyond our own. Victoria's attempts to move large sums out of the country were blocked when authorities intercepted a multi-million-dollar wire transfer. Ironically, the receiving account had already been seized by the FBI, yet even this wasn't the end. My earlier database discoveries hinted at something bigger: Aurora Springs Protocol, a broader operation that was still in play. From that point, the investigation moved with military precision. Multi-agency teams from the FBI Cybercrime Division, IRS Criminal Investigations, and the State Attorney General's office converged on Aurora Springs. Prosecutors described my documentation as the most detailed cybercrime evidence set they had ever handled. One by one, actors and technicians who had worked for Victoria flipped, eager to lessen their own exposure to federal prosecution. The emergency town hall drew every resident, alongside reporters and attorneys from multiple states. Victoria was conspicuously absent. Her lawyers had advised complete silence as charges piled up. In a unanimous vote, the entire whole leadership was removed in minutes. Rosa was appointed interim administrator, immediately freezing all accounts pending a federal audit. During my presentation to the community, I broke down the mechanics of Victoria's manipulation in plain terms. I generated fake personas, coordinated bot networks, manufactured consensus, and profit motives that pitted neighbor against neighbor. The most sobering moment came when I returned personal surveillance files to their rightful owners: 47 families whose medical histories, private disputes, financial challenges, and secrets had been weaponized for control. Federal investigators were stunned when they uncovered the true scale of the scheme. 327 HOAs across 23 states had used the same services, forcing $47 million in property sales through intimidation and engineered crises. The structure behind it all included 23 shell corporations, offshore bank accounts, and foreign servers, creating a deliberately tangled web of deniability. Political connections extended to campaign donations for officials who had approved zoning changes that enabled the land grabs. Dylan's online reporting became a phenomenon. His TikTok documentary series drew millions of viewers, was picked up by major news networks, and made him the youngest journalist ever featured on national broadcasts. The cyber-awareness content he produced sparked interest among younger audiences, helping to build a generation of digitally literate activists. Media outlets worldwide sought interviews. Federal experts were called in to explain blockchain forensics, network tracing, and communication interception to grand juries unfamiliar with cryptocurrency. Digital forensics teams mapped the criminal network across 8 countries, recovered deleted files, and decrypted messages that tied the highest-level decision-makers directly to the crimes. Victoria's fall from power was brutal. Facing dozens of federal and state charges, she also became personally liable under RICO statutes, leaving her owing more than her total net worth. Her law license was suspended, every corporate role she held was terminated, and bankruptcy was inevitable. Legal and financial fallout hit Victoria before her criminal trial even began. Her assets couldn't keep pace with the mounting legal fees and looming damages. Meanwhile, the neighborhood's recovery became a case study in grassroots democratic renewal, one that political scientists would later examine for decades. Truth and reconciliation gatherings allowed residents to finally speak openly about their experiences. A class-action lawsuit against the operation brought both justice and financial compensation to those who had suffered. The HOA underwent sweeping reform, adopting a new charter built on transparency and accountability. Technology returned to the community cautiously, with strict privacy safeguards and resident oversight to ensure no surveillance tool could ever be used as a weapon again. Then came the insurance company's decisive blow. HOA coverage would not protect intentional misconduct, leaving board members personally liable for the damages. That liability fell squarely on Victoria and her last two allies, stripping away the corporate shields they had relied upon. A nearly $2 million judgment against her triggered the liquidation of every ill-gotten asset she had amassed. My own vindication came in unexpected forms. Property restoration coverage rebuilt my lodge with upgraded, community-friendly technology. Criminal asset forfeiture programs reimbursed my legal expenses and returned millions to victims nationwide. The cybersecurity community honored my work as an example of technical skill used for public protection, not profit. Winning a seat on the reformed HOA board gave me the influence to make sure no similar abuse could take root again. Federal prosecutors' success sent shockwaves through the manipulation-for-hire industry. Most of the major players pled guilty rather than face trials that might reveal even more criminal networks. Victoria's prison sentence of 15 to 20 years stood as a warning to others. Restitution orders totaling $12 million were issued for victims across the country. The ripple effect was enormous. New federal guidelines for HOA cybersecurity were implemented nationwide. Our community's tech education program became a model for empowerment. My workshops drew attendees from far beyond our borders. Dylan's youth tech advocacy group mentored young people in digital rights and safety, and Rose's classes gave older residents the skills to navigate the modern world securely. Partnerships with major tech firms brought free protective services to communities that couldn't afford them. Reform movements sprang up statewide, and transparency bills were introduced in over a dozen state legislatures. Law enforcement training began incorporating long-overdue cybercrime awareness. Standards closed the loopholes Victoria had exploited. Academics dissected our case for policy research, and the whistleblower network that emerged from the investigation reshaped how cybercrime was policed. Former employees from manipulation firms turned over client lists and operational details, exposing similar schemes across the nation. Database records revealed an international sprawl of operations in 8 countries and hundreds of connected enterprises. Investigators launched more than 100 new cases, many building directly on the Aurora Springs evidence. In our own neighborhood, technology integration moved forward under democratic oversight, ensuring residents retained control over their digital lives. Smart systems met security standards beyond even government requirements, and encryption protocols made unauthorized surveillance impossible. Governance became fully transparent, with digital voting and open decision-making. Youth programs prepared the next generation to be informed, responsible digital citizens. 6 months into our renewed prosperity, my rebuilt lodge stood as a symbol of technology serving people rather than controlling them. But in my preserved evidence archives, I found something chilling: an encrypted file labeled Aurora Springs Protocol, Phase 2. The decoded contents suggested this was only the beginning. From Chicago, Jason Miller reached out to viewers. If you discovered your HOA was secretly running a digital manipulation campaign against you, would you fight back as Alex did, or walk away? He invited opinions before revealing the next chapter. In another version, Jason posed a different question. Did Alex handle Victoria's fake SWAT stunt the right way, or would you have chosen another path? Either way, he promised, the story was about to escalate beyond anything the audience could imagine. 1 year later, Aurora Springs had become a global example of what a community could achieve when technology was placed firmly in the service of democracy. Property values rose far beyond pre-crisis levels, local businesses thrived in an atmosphere of transparency, and our smart infrastructure operated under resident control. A secure, private, and accountable media coverage framed us as a blueprint for the future of tech-enabled communities. Aurora Springs soon became recognized globally as a shining example of how technology could be integrated into community life while respecting individual freedom. Experts from urban planning, cybersecurity, and democratic governance came from around the world to study our model. My role as the community's chief technology officer expanded well beyond our borders, evolving into a consulting practice that helped other neighborhoods stand against manipulation. Speaking at conferences, I spread awareness about grassroots cybersecurity, while outreach programs taught everyday residents how to identify and counter digital threats. The encrypted file I'd uncovered months earlier, however, was about to prove that our triumph had only been the first move in a far larger conflict. Breaking its advanced encryption tested my skills to the limit. When I finally decoded the data, the scale of the scheme was staggering. Aurora Springs had merely been a pilot project in a massive national plan targeting thousands of communities over the next decade for optimization through coordinated manipulation. This was not simple neighborhood mischief. The blueprint called for controlling residential real estate markets, reshaping entire towns to suit corporate agendas. Their upgraded methods made the Aurora Springs operation seem primitive. AI-generated deepfakes designed to frame innocent residents, quantum encrypted communications nearly impossible to intercept, and political influence purchased through campaign donations to sympathetic lawmakers. Legitimacy came from acquiring respected home management companies, while immense funding flowed from international investors including foreign state-owned funds. Even major technology firms had unknowingly provided infrastructure that fueled these operations. Academic institutions, funded by the same networks, gave the plan's intellectual cover under the guise of community optimization research. Meanwhile, Dylan's journalism evolved into serious investigative work, reaching millions through documentaries and major news syndication. His secure communication channels protected whistleblowers who were essential in exposing the ongoing threats. The educational outreach from our community created a new generation that understood how technology could be twisted against them and how to fight back. The federal government responded with a task force uniting multiple agencies, law enforcement, financial regulators, and international partners to dismantle these networks. Private industry began collaborating with the government, and academic research provided the strategic insights needed to counter the manipulations. Communities joined forces, sharing intelligence, pooling cybersecurity resources, and coordinating legal action. An arms race emerged. Our defensive systems learned to detect large-scale manipulation before it took root, while countermeasures could neutralize attacks without sacrificing community autonomy. We built ethical safeguards so that our tools for liberation would never become instruments of control, releasing our technology as open source to ensure it served the public rather than corporate profit. From prison, Victoria tried to continue her influence, but intercepted messages exposed more operatives and expanded the crackdown. Cooperation deals with captured members unraveled entire branches of the network. In the corporate world, accountability reforms began to close the loopholes that had allowed such schemes to thrive. Tech companies faced consequences for enabling criminal manipulation, banks were forced to scrutinize suspicious transactions, and the real estate industry had to reveal shell company ownership. Legislators passed new laws at federal, state, and local levels bringing HOA oversight under consumer protection rules, guaranteeing resident rights, and establishing principles for community self-governance. International treaties followed, targeting cross-border manipulation that threatened democratic societies. For those of us who had fought this battle, the changes weren't just political or technological, they were personal milestones that honored the sacrifices and courage of everyone who stood together in resistance. My shift from an isolated tech professional to a recognized community leader proved how one person's expertise could be harnessed for the greater good. Dylan's rise from teen activist to national youth advocate showed that age is no barrier to impact. Rose's steady wisdom guided our democratic transition, and her election to the city council brought grassroots organizing skills into the halls of governance. Together, our community turned shared hardship into collective strength, inspiring similar movements across the country. The formation of our counter-network became the embodiment of everything we had learned about resisting corporate manipulation through democratic action. More than 300 communities joined forces in a mutual protection alliance, pooling intelligence on threats and sharing advanced defensive tools. Technical collaboration meant even neighborhoods without professional resources could access high-level cybersecurity. political coordination allowed us to advocate for stronger protections, while our educational outreach taught thousands how to recognize and resist manipulation. But the movement's impact didn't stop at America's borders. We uncovered identical destabilization tactics being used in a dozen other countries. Diplomatic tensions rose when evidence confirmed certain foreign governments had been involved in these campaigns, using real estate manipulation as a form of economic warfare. Our local defense model soon became an international blueprint for countering authoritarian tactics that endangered free societies. Technology accessibility remained our driving principle. We released our open-source protection software to anyone who needed it, and within weeks, thousands of communities had downloaded it. Our educational guides made it possible for non-technical residents to defend their own neighborhoods. Every system was built with privacy-first principles, ensuring that the very tools protecting us could never become instruments of surveillance. 1 year after Victoria destroyed my lodge, federal authorities announced the arrest of 47 individuals across 8 countries in what they called the largest cybercrime conspiracy in history. Yet among the intercepted messages from overseas servers, we found references to Project Reset, a massive new operation targeting 50,000 communities across the nation. We had cut off one branch, but the organism behind it was still alive, evolving, and preparing for another strike. That same day, our community gathered in the rebuilt Memorial Garden for the first annual Digital Democracy Festival. Children explored interactive playgrounds that taught online safety through games. Teenagers ran workshops on spotting manipulation campaigns. Seniors confidently navigated community tablets thanks to Rose's digital literacy classes. The Memorial Garden had grown into the beating heart of a neighborhood that could protect itself through unity and technology. My own path from a solitary engineer to a global advocate felt unreal as I addressed the crowd, the reconstructed lodge standing proudly behind me. Its solar panels powered a community-wide mesh network designed to connect every home while safeguarding privacy. The federal grants that rebuilt it were valuable, but the true triumph wasn't in the architecture, it was in proving that ordinary citizens could stand against extraordinary manipulation when armed with knowledge. That afternoon, Dylan's future became clear when representatives from MIT arrived with paperwork for his full scholarship to their cybersecurity program. At 17, he was the youngest ever accepted into their graduate-level digital rights initiative, though he chose to defer enrollment for a year to help launch teen-led advocacy programs in 50 other communities. Rose's victory in her city council race by the largest margin in municipal history spread her influence far beyond Aurora Springs, with policies like participatory budgeting and digital transparency inspiring other cities. Even Victoria's downfall became a teaching tool. Serving an 18-year sentence, she was compelled to cooperate with authorities, helping dismantle the very networks she had built. Her assets were seized, and victims began receiving long-overdue restitution. Aurora Springs continued to innovate from blockchain-secured HOA voting systems to fully inclusive participation programs that spanned generations. Economic growth flowed back into the community through locally owned businesses and cooperative ventures. Our open-source Community Shield platform had been adopted in over 1,000 neighborhoods in just 6 months, while educational programs made digital citizenship a part of school curricula across multiple states. Nationally, our work had destroyed the financial backbone of home manipulation industries. International partnerships ensured that dismantled networks could not simply reform elsewhere. By now, 99% of known manipulation schemes had been neutralized, and new policy frameworks made large-scale interference both illegal and economically unfeasible. Personally, the journey had reshaped my relationship with technology. What began as a private skill set had evolved into a public service, aligning professional expertise with democratic values. The lodge became a living classroom for community-centered innovation, while the Memorial Garden remained a place of reflection and renewed commitment. Our victory was undeniable, but it wasn't the end. During the festival, an encrypted message appeared on secure networks around the globe. The Aurora Springs model has sparked worldwide resistance. But the next battle won't be local, it will be planetary. Quantum computing loomed as a threat to existing security, and authoritarian regimes were developing new reality-bending manipulation techniques. Standing in the garden, watching neighbors celebrate, I understood that our fight for digital democracy was only entering its next phase.